Okay, welcome everyone. Today is Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. This is the meeting of the Asbury Park Zoning Board of Adjustment. And Chris, will you please call us to order?
I think Russell's going to do that.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Russell. Please call us to order.
Okay, this is Russell Lewis, acting chairman for this evening, August 11th, 2020, for the Zoning Board of Adjustments for Asbury Park. I call to order. The announcement that I'll be making is this is an Open Public Meeting Act. The following meeting has been conducted by electronic means in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, amended in 2020, which explicitly permits a public body to conduct meetings electronically during a state of emergency. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and the Asbury Park Press. All notices are on file with the board secretary. In addition, a notice regarding this virtual meeting and instructions were published in the Asbury Park Press and the City of Asbury Park website. A copy of that notice is on file with the board secretary. The notices and the conduct of this meeting are in accordance with the guidelines for virtual meetings issued by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. Can I please have roll call?
Thank you. Yes. Christopher Avalone.
Here.
Russell Lewis.
Here.
Daniel Harris.
Here.
Brittany Ashman.
Here. Here. Did you
Thank
know?
you.
Sorry.
Christopher Gonzalez.
Here.
Jill Potter is absent. Tim Slick.
Here.
Catherine Minervini. Here. And Bonnie Nutt.
Here.
Thank you. And Russell, did you want me to just point out the other reminders?
Yes, please note that all, I start with microphones, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Please note that all microphones of public users are muted until the public question and comment session. When the public question or comment session is open, you may raise your hand by clicking on the icon on your computer or by dialing *9 on a telephone. When it is your time to speak, your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number will be called. Your microphone will then be unmuted. If at any time during your question you are deemed to be out of line or off topic, we reserve the right to mute your microphone and will make an announcement that this has occurred. Please turn off all cell phones, electronic devices during this meeting. If you have any background noises during the meeting, please mute yourself. Please identify yourself before you speak at all times, as some attendees are attending by telephone only. This meeting is being recorded and will be available to view via APTV. We have already done roll call. I am making a motion to, can I move into emotions?
Sure.
Okay, making a motion to approve the minutes of July 28th, 2020.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Russell Lewis and a second by Daniel Harris. I believe everyone is eligible. All in favor?
Christopher Avalone wouldn't be eligible. Oh, wait. Yes, you would.
Yes, yes,
Sorry.
it was the
Sorry,
last.
my error.
No worries. Everyone except Bonnie Nutt, who was not present, is available, is eligible to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Minutes memorialized. And those minutes are marked as, will be marked as Exhibit B1.
Okay, moving right on to applications. The first application this evening is 1302 Madison Llc, which was carried from June 23rd, 2020 without further notice. Request to be carried to the next available date.
Which is September 22nd.
September 22nd of 2020.
Yes.
If there's anyone attending this meeting that is here for the 1302 Madison LLC application, that application has been carried.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
You have a vote. And also, how about notice on this one, Irina?
Oh,
With-
yes, it's, they do have to renotice, so
Okay.
can we get a motion to carry the application 1302 Madison LLC to September 22nd, 2020 with further notice?
I'll make a motion for that.
Thank you.
Now second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Russell Lewis and a second by Brittany Ashman. And everyone except for Mr. Avalone is eligible to vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Application carried to September 22nd with further notice.
Thank you. Moving right on to our second and only application for this evening, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, also known as AT&T, that was carried from May 26th without further notice. This is address 321 Sunset Avenue, Block 3606, Lot 10 in the R3 zone. Looking for use and height variances, and this is the second time we're seeing them.
I think it's only a height variance. Is that correct? Oh, let's get Donna sworn.
So it's not a use variance.
I think it's a height variance. I just want to make sure. Let's talk.
Okay.
Can't see her. Donna, you there?
Aye.
Okay.
Hiding.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name and affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Okay. I don't know if you heard my question or not. Is this it's a D6 height variance and not a use variance, correct?
Right. I think we had actually burned that bridge last meeting.
Yep, we did. I just wanted to confirm that there's no use variance involved, other than a D6.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So this is just for height variance waivers and site plan for installation of 20 telecommunication antenna related equipment behind a proposed concealment frame and a generator on the rooftop of an existing multifamily building. Ms. Fairweather, I believe I can turn this over to you.
Okay, great. Hi. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Nice to
Hello.
see you. So this evening we have my engineer, Gary Lucas, who is going to testify, civil engineer, and then we have Paul Rickey, the planner, to testify. As per our last meeting, I did supply the board with the list of the alternative sites that my RF engineer had spoken about. And we also submitted some alternative photo sims in regard to the type of antennas. What we originally submitted was a darker stealthing to match the outside of the building. But we also did the photo sims in a white or a lighter stealthing, which seemed to blend in better. And we also did the photo sims, and Gary will talk about it because Gary actually did the third that I'm talking about with just the antennas themselves without any stealthing, so that the board could have an idea and take a look and see what they would prefer if they granted the application. With that said, Gary, you were you all torn in together?
I'm going to
No.
swear him in. I'm going to swear him in again, just to make
Okay.
sure.
Gary, raise your right hand, please.
Yeah, Mr. Lucas, please. You solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
State your name for the record and spell it, please.
Gary Lucas,
Thank you.
Garylucas.
Thank you.
Gary, what's your business address, please?
It's 1777 Century Parkway West, Blue Bell, PA 19422.
And can I have your credentials?
Sure. I am a structural engineer with a Bachelor of Science from Drexel University in Architectural Engineering. I have approximately 19 years of engineering experience. I've designed several hundred of these types of sites. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I've
All right.
been accepted in front of the board several times.
Fine. We'll accept your credentials. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Gary, I'm going to kind of give you the floor. Can you explain to the board, and Irene, he can use the screen if he needs to, correct? He can, like, if he wants to show us a site plan, he can share with you.
It's disabled right now, so.
Yeah, she's working on it.
I'm sorry, just 1 second.
Gets a little complicated.
All right, go right ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so Gary, can you, I know that we had already marked A3 and A4. They were exhibits for you. Do you have, you have them? Oh, Gary, I'm so impressed. Okay.
I might have changed this to A4 and A5. So this is A3, is that correct?
I don't know.
Hold on, let me take a look. Let's figure this out. Put glasses on.
Irina, would you know that?
Gary, you would remark the exhibits. I'm so disappointed. Okay. I don't have them marked. Irina, do you know if this is A3? You're on mute. A4.
Can't hear you.
Irina, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Sorry. A3 is the site plan. A4 is the rooftop structural analysis.
Great. Okay. So A3, that's the site plan. So Gary, we'll change that, but refer to it please as A3.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Russell Lewis, acting chairman. I don't know that we acknowledged that Christopher Avalone is recused from this application. I just wanted to go on record with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Gary, nice job. You changed it. Okay, Gary, explain to us what we have proposed, please.
Sure. So this is the site plan we have in front of us. I'm going to go to the plan view of the zoning drawings just to bring up what we have here. This is the site plan. This is sheet 2 of the zoning drawings. So you can see here that the property is located at the corner of Sunset Avenue and Park Avenue at this location. Excuse me. Here. The building is right here where the arrow is. This is an existing 7-story condo. It's 1.6 acres. It's located in the R3 zone. And the building is approximately 123 foot wide along Sunset Avenue and 108 foot along Park Avenue. To access the roof, you come in through the front door, which is right here. Okay, then you walk in, you go up the elevator. When you walk out up to the elevator, you go up through a door. At that door, you'll see 2 new signs. I'm going to pull them up right here. These 2 signs right here.
And Gary, approximately how large is it?
This one is 10 inches by 14 inches, and this one's approximately the same.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So once you get up to the roof level, you'd walk out the door, and the first thing you'd see, this is the door right here. When you walk out, you'd see this first array here. Will have 4 antennas supported by a frame, and these will be concealed. Walking around to the west, you would see the concealed platform at this location here. The platform houses it's called a walk-in shelter, as well as a generator, and this entire facility is concealed. Continuing around, you have the same array of 4 antennas in the upper northwesterly corner, and then the same thing walking around to the southwest corner, and 2 more here at the southeast corner. At this location. Just draw these out for you. This is the one array. This is the other array, and gamma and beta. So these are these are the 5 sectors we have up here. Okay.
And you want to go to the elevation drawing?
Sure. So this is the elevation view of the view from Sunset Avenue and from 6th Avenue. You can see that the top of the roof is at 69 foot. The top of the parapet is at 72 foot. And then these depictions here are of the concealed antenna frames.
Gary, I have to tell you, I'm impressed with your ability to use and share a screen and mark it up.
Yeah. Thanks. And in this location here, this is where the generator would be. So if you notice here, you'd see this is the walk-in shelter I was talking about, this location here, and then the generator down here. Now these are all enclosed, and this is also below, one important thing to note is this is below the existing bulkhead roof. So this is lower than the top of the building. The bulkhead roof is at 81.82 feet, and the top of the antenna frame would be approximately 81 foot. So these are below the top of the roof. And you can see, as depicted here, there's the four antennas per sector. Same thing over here. This is just a different view, but this is the same depiction of the view of the walk-in cabinet, the walk-in shelter, the generator, and the antenna arrays.
Gary, how often does the tech come and visit, and what does the tech usually bring with him or her?
So these are remotely monitored. They try to come out as little as possible. From what I'm hearing, the most recent data is about once a quarter at the most. They come with the truck, the standard pickup truck or a van, nothing large, and they would just have 1 or 2 techs come up and visit.
What they bring with them is computer equipment, correct?
Excuse me?
What they bring with them mostly, unless they have to swap out an antenna or there's a malfunction, is computer equipment, correct?
Correct, yes.
Oh.
And also during emergencies, sorry.
Oh, and the site is monitored 24/7 remotely by AT&T?
Correct.
And if something was to happen into the cabinet, someone opens it up or the temperature inside isn't acceptable, a silent alarm goes off, but the alarm goes off an AT&T hub, correct? But you can't hear it in the building?
That's correct.
And then they would send a tech out?
Yes.
Talk about the generator. How often does it function, please?
So the generator is tested on a bi-weekly basis, I believe. It is tested for 30 minutes, typically in the morning between 10 and 12 is usually the time that they test it. So it would be either that time for routine maintenance for 30 minutes, and then during outages.
Okay.
So another one thing to note here is that the generator is in a concealed enclosure. It does comply with the noise criteria, so there's no issues with the noise. It's also on it's also placed on springs essentially, so the vibration doesn't get felt through the building.
Okay, great. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any other questions for you, Gary. Did we miss anything?
If you want to go through I can go through the utility locations. The existing utilities would be brought in through an existing chase in the building. Parking would be, existing parking on site. There's no lighting. It's unmanned. The structural, the installation will comply with the 2018 version of the International Building Code with the New Jersey edition. We've done a structural analysis on already. Everything is passing. There's no issues with the building. The installation, again, will be in compliance with all applicable codes.
Gary, can you please show me the photo sims that you did with just the antennas with no stealthing?
Sure. Let me get that pulled up here.
And we'll have to give that a new one. I think we're on A6, Irina.
Yes, I believe it's A6.
Okay, and so we'll call it photo of antennas, no stealthing.
All right, you see this pulled up here? Is sharing correctly? I believe it is correct.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
you can see it.
All right, so this map shows the locations of the photos that were taken here. This is the first one is from Webb Street below Sunset Avenue. The second one is from Grand Avenue. The third one is from Fifth Avenue. Fourth one is from Sixth Avenue, and then the fifth one is down here to the west along Sunset Avenue as well. So I'm going to go through each of these ones individually just to show you what the existing and proposed view would look like. Again, we do have a set of photos since prepared with the stealth enclosure, but these were prepared with just the antenna frames, just to see what that would, just the antennas itself. So this is the existing view, again, from the first location here on Webb Street. This, again, is basically here. Okay. So I'll pull up the proposed view of what you can see with the antennas from this view. And essentially, these 4 antennas, if they were not concealed, we could do it basically in a manner, since we have a pretty good parapet wall here, that we would have all the framing below this line, the parapet wall. So everything that you'd see here below the parapet wall would be the frame for the antennas. So all you would really see, I'll zoom in on this, are the pipes that support the antennas, and then just the antenna itself. It's actually a pretty clean installation, in my opinion. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's not very obtrusive. So we presented this just, to give another option. Again, utilizing the frame below the parapet wall it takes away those members that could really be what you see when you're kind of looking at these structures. Is you might be pointed to those the framing members more than the antennas themselves. So doing it with the pipe here really limits that, and it's a fairly pleasing installation. I'm gonna go through the other photos here just to see what else it looks like here. Again, this is the second photo from Grand Avenue. I'll point this out here. Okay, and then this is the existing view from the ridge here, and this would be the proposed view of the antennas. You can also see that the shelter, the platform would still be concealed, just so that's not it's not the same as the antenna, so we would have that concealed.
The shelter kind of fits in with the other equipment that's already located on the roof, correct?
Correct.
And we would match the color and all of that, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All right, so the third location is from Fifth Avenue down here. Pull that up. This is the existing. Here's the proposed. Okay, and then the fourth view from 6th Avenue here. It's here. It's the existing and the proposed. And then we have one more view, which is
further down Sunset, correct?
Excuse me?
I said it's further down Sunset?
Yes, correct. It's further down Sunset at this location here. And here's the existing and the proposed.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
All right.
Can you show
Now,
that last
I have
one?
no other
I'm
questions.
sorry. Can you show that last one more time? I don't think that was in our, what was mailed to us.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. He did it after.
Okay.
Yeah, do it again. Go from a couple times from existing to what we're doing.
So it's the existing view here, and this is the proposed view.
And why? I thought they were going to be concealed completely.
So this is a different option. We have both SINs shown. So as I mentioned, this is in my opinion is less obtrusive. It's just an option. It doesn't have to, you can choose whatever you like. But just give it another vantage point. And
So where's the
view.
second option on that angle?
So Paul has this. The planner has the stealth options.
Okay.
He'll go over that when he gets to the planner.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone on the board that has any questions for Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, I have another question.
Brittany.
And you might have gone through this again. I apologize if you did. Is there a reason why they have to be so tall, or the height that they're at right now?
So the way that they're set back, they have to be that height above the top of the roof for RF purposes. We don't want to have any kind of them hitting the top of the roof, essentially. So
That's why they have to be set back.
they're set back because they're turned basically for that to meet the azimuth. So they're not exactly straight on at the edge. So they're set back from the roof a little bit. So in order to get the signal over top of the roof without causing interference, it's brought up higher so that can kind of come out and not interfere with that. So it's about 4 foot to the bottom of the antenna below.
Is there a way
Above
to
the top of the surface.
position it so they aren't so tall?
We went through this and we've actually lowered it quite a bit from what it was. And we went through a pretty good exercise getting it down to be the lowest we could do it. And this is what we came up with.
This is the lowest you'd be willing to go?
Well, I think it's the lowest, Gary, that it can go and store for RF, correct?
Correct.
Say that again?
It'd be the lowest that could go for the RF purposes.
And it's the lowest it can go and still function as the antenna to be able to provide the service.
Okay. My only question. Thank you.
This is Donna Miller. I have a question. Can you quantify that for us? How much lower have you made them? You're saying these exhibits represent a lower height of the antennas than in the original presentation?
No, the height has not changed in the presentation. I'm saying that, internally we've made sure that we've gone the lowest that we can go based on the allowable RF setback basically from the roof height. So again, this is not my area of expertise. I just follow the rules that the RF engineer gives me.
But Gary, it's the lowest internally, you guys presented it the lowest. These have not changed at all. The plans have not changed.
This has not changed, correct.
We just offered another option that's not stealth, that's all. So that you can see every possible way it could look.
And stealth means that it is completely hidden by its design. Got it.
Yeah, so basically we're showing you 3 options. You've seen one now, just the plain antennas. And then the other 2 options are both stealth, one a lighter color that matches the building and one a darker color that matches the building.
And the planner is going to present those to us.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the other two.
Thank
The
you.
engineer was excited about the antennas and thought they looked the best.
True.
Okay. Any other board members that have any questions for Mr. Lucas? Everyone okay? Donna, any other professionals? Do you guys have any other questions for Mr. Lucas at this time?
I have a question.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Have you got any feedback from the tenants from the building? What did they think about the antenna? What are the ideas, any oppositions or anything?
Well, Gary wouldn't know that. We have a lease executed with them, and whether or not they said they wanted it stealth or not stealth, I do believe that the consensus was they wanted it stealth, but they would do whatever the board wanted.
Thank you.
So there's no one here from the building co-op board that's representing that they have a feeling one way or the other about the ultimate design of this. They're leaving it completely up to us.
Yes. We proposed it stealthing to them. They were fine and happy with it. And then after our last meeting, we thought maybe the board may want to see it without stealthing, just so you know all your possible options. And that's why we presented this. But they're happy with going whatever the board wants.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the board and Mr. Lucas, any other?
I'm sorry, what was that? You said, it's a little hard to hear, Judith.
Let me try to get closer to my microphone. Hi. So they said that they liked the stealthing, but if the board preferred not the stealthing, they would go with whatever the board preferred.
And do you know if they liked the lighter stealthing or the darker one?
I don't think it mattered to them. I don't think that they got that detailed about it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, if there's no more questions from our board or professionals, I guess we can open it up now to
I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis. Doug has a question.
Doug. Go right ahead.
Doug, we can't hear you. And you're not muted.
While Doug's doing that, can I jump in?
Sure, absolutely.
It's Donna. And I'm not sure that Mr. Lucas can answer this. Maybe Ms. Fairweather, you can, either from the previous testimony from last time, the other engineer, is there a reason for not putting the generator at grade? Is there some site constraint or functionality for not putting the generator on the ground?
Gary, do you know?
I believe that the space down at the bottom is pretty limited. That was my understanding. Typically, this is where we typically put them, is on the rooftop usually, and mostly sites.
Doug, do we have?
To your specific question, you talking about the generator being on the ground or the generator being lower on the roof?
You're asking me, Jack?
Yeah, I want to make sure he answered your.
I wanted to get a clarification as to whether there was an investigation into putting the generator itself on the ground.
Okay, I got it. Then he answered. Okay.
One of the things that's sticking up and
Right.
creating a height problem.
Got it. Okay.
Doug, do we have you?
No.
No, we still can't hear you. Doug, click on the up arrow next to the mute button. It's the little up arrow next to the mute. Make sure that your microphone is connected and your speakers are connected. There should be a check mark next to your microphone or same as system. No?
Can he call in?
He should be able to.
You can either call in or you can type a question.
Doug, is your microphone external microphone? Did you try clicking that? Has to be external microphone under microphone and then whatever your speaker is.
Can he try testing the speaker microphone? I'm on a Mac, so I don't know if it's different, but there was like while you're in the call, I think you can test it again.
You can also click on audio settings and that will open up the settings.
Should we take a break, Russell, and see if he can call in or something?
I'm perfectly fine with that. Jack, do you recommend us taking a break?
Yeah, and have him call in.
Can he, well, could he also jump off and jump back on?
Right.
Maybe you just didn't click something when
that might work too, Doug, but do you want to break or just give it a minute?
Doug, why don't you try getting out and getting back on? Okay.
2020. You're on mute.
So bad for him. I have
We can
done
talk
that.
about it.
I can't take credit for that. I saw that posted somewhere today. It was the quote of 20. It just said in quotes, "You're on mute," and then it said, you know, the phrase of 2020 or the quote for the year or something. I was like, yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. And you feel so helpless, like you can't figure it out. I know. I've done it.
And sometimes you're super prepared and you've got everything set up, and then you're like, something's just not working.
Yeah. Oh, here he comes.
All right, here he comes.
Connecting to audio, look at that.
Check
All right, I think it's gonna work.
Kind of, barely.
Say something, Doug. I can't hear him.
No.
All right. All right, just try calling in with your phone, Doug.
Yep. No, Catherine, you talk about that. You're all set up and ready to go, and then all of a sudden you press the button and nothing happens. You ought to be sitting on like a large fireworks show with 25,000 people on July 4th, and you press the computer button and it does nothing.
Oh my God.
That's exciting.
Talk about a freak out moment.
Well, we always have backup, so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And if that don't work, we can go to manual. But I've been on displays on barges where I'm pacing back and forth, like on midnight on New Year's Eve, and you hit the button and it's supposed to go at midnight and it doesn't, and you're about a second or two behind because you have to switch to back. So
And it
that's that gets the adrenaline going.
yeah, my husband works in live events and television and entertainment stuff. And every once in a while, if we're watching something and, you know, the screen goes black or something, we always go, oops, someone's getting fired.
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. I'm going, 8122, is that you, Doug? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I apologize for that. I hope everybody can hear me now.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, good. So I know you touched on some of this already, but I just wanted, I was going through later, just some of the items required some testimony. As far as maintenance personnel go, I know you mentioned it. They're just going to pull up and park in the nearest available spot. Is that the testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And how often are they going to be coming?
Once a quarter at the most, or during emergencies, like outages.
Got it. And no lighting is proposed? I think you mentioned it. I just wanted to double check.
Correct.
Okay. And then any access easements required for the maintenance personnel or anything like that?
No, it's part of our lease agreement. We don't do it easements. It's just part of the lease.
I do want to point out that there is a light on the side of the cabinet here that does, it turns on when you walk up as a sensor, and then it has, it automatically turns back off after 30 minutes. So just
Got it.
small.
Okay, thank you. And then regarding the generator, I know you mentioned this too. How often will it cycle on and for how long?
I believe it's bi-weekly, and it's for 30 minutes. And usually the time's between 10 and 12 in the morning, like a Tuesday or a Thursday, sometime during the week.
Okay. And other than that, it's only on an emergency basis, correct?
Correct.
And will it meet the city and state sound regulations?
Yes.
Okay. One final question. The gas line, it's shown on the plans that it wasn't really clear, so I figured I'd ask. Is it going to be run internally from the gas that services the building, or will it be run up the facade of the building? How's that going to work?
No, it's internal.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, so no other questions from the board and our professionals. So I guess at this time I can open it up to the public. If there's anyone in the public that has any questions for Mr. Lucas based on his testimony only, please let us know.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, I show 2 raised hands. The first one is Mr. Avalone. Go ahead and speak.
I just have a quick question, Mr. Lucas. You mentioned that nothing's changed with the antenna, so I'm just clarifying. The height of the antenna off the roof of the building is still 10 feet. Is that correct?
The height above the parapet, the center line of the antenna to the height above the parapet is 6 foot. The top of that would be 6 is 8, about, yeah, no more than 10 foot. Yes, correct.
So essentially nothing's changed except you're just showing us different ways of hiding the antenna. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
You said that's 10 foot above the parapet, 10 foot total, 6 foot above the parapet?
That's the center line of the antenna is 6 foot above the parapet.
Okay, thanks.
I have no further questions.
Okay. We can move to the next member of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Avalone. The next person is phone caller ending in 3350. Go ahead and ask your question.
It's Ernest Mignoli, 400 Deal Lake Drive, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Trying to understand, Mr. Lucas, are you the same person that testified the last time, or was that someone else? Okay. All right. So then we can't ask any questions relative to previous testimony, correct? Just yours?
That's correct.
Okay. So I thought I heard comment about the tenants in the building. And
That was a representation made by counsel.
I represented that the condominium board that we entered into an agreement with, I talked about the board, not the tenants.
right. Well, I'd like to ask a question about that because I opened the application, and I also opened the notification, and I noticed that the tenants weren't notified directly.
They don't have to be. They don't have to be.
I didn't say that. Did I say that?
Why don't you keep going?
Just hold on a minute, Mr. Serpico. Let me get my
I will,
question
as
out.
long as you keep talking.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
No.
So my point is, the management company was notified, and from what I understand, a lot of people don't even know what's going on.
Mr. Mignola, you're testifying. You're not asking the witness a question about his testimony.
Does each and every tenant had input and know exactly what's going on?
Don't know.
As the attorney with the lease agreement that my client negotiated with the owner of the property, I cannot tell you other than that. And we gave all notices pursuant to the New Jersey land use law.
You mentioned about some signs will be posted. Is that correct?
Yes.
What will those signs say? I know you mentioned
the
the size of them, but what will they say?
Did you see the pictures?
No, sir.
Okay.
Gary, can you just give a quick overview of what they look like?
Sure. The 2 signs are the ones will say no trespassing, authorized personnel only. That's in the AT&T notifications. And then there's also another one that has the guidelines for working in radio frequency environments. That's the RF notice. It's basically to maintain a 3-foot clearance, and it just gives you a list of all the notifications and warnings and working in an RF environment.
So the one
Those are pursuant to our requirements with the FCC, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the one talks about no trespassing, and the other talks about radiation exposure and I guess maintain a distance, et cetera, et cetera. Is that what it says?
Correct.
Okay. So what does that mean to people? Does that mean that no one will be allowed on the roof that lives there?
I don't know. This is the attorney who was the lease, and I have no idea what kind of access that they have to the roof or not. They just cannot come around where the antennas are.
Okay, so the one sign says no trespassing, and that's generated by AT&T.
It's
The
right.
other
We're
says
trespassing in the AT&T leased area. We're not speaking for the whole roof or the whole building, just in our leased area on the roof.
well, aren't the towers spaced throughout the roof?
Well, they're not towers, they're antennas, and they take up a small portion of various parts of the roof. Yes, they do.
So the sign says of all the enclosed towers that you have with 2 or 3 antennas in each one, spaced around the roof, that should someone go on the roof, they should stay within 3 feet away from those towers, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was there mention about why?
No, the signs that we put up regarding the 3 feet and the spacing is pursuant to the FCC. The FCC just tells us what to put on the sign. They don't give explanation.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And I was part of the meeting the last time. It's just that yourself and someone, perhaps this gentleman or the previous one, all mentioned that the spacing of them, proximity to the tenants, everybody knows, it's up to the board. But I take a little bit of difference with one of the statements that was made, is that you keep referring to the fact that everything's FCC compliant and approved and it's safe. And I just wanted to know, have you ever read the American Cancer Society statement on cell towers?
I'm sorry, it's not part of the testimony and I object.
It's outside the scope of the testimony.
Okay. So, Mr. Serpa, let me ask you a question. Is there a point where comments could be made?
Yeah, like every other application. At the end, you'll make your comments.
The end of what, tonight or another
At
meeting?
the end of the hearing, whether we finish tonight or next meeting, whatever. I anticipate we'll finish tonight. You get your opportunity to make your comments.
Okay. I had a question for the, I guess, person speaking. So you made these location determinations in conjunction with the board and the management company. Is that correct? Like you all work together?
I'm going to interrupt here as the attorney. This is Judy Fairweather. No, the previous, last month, the RF engineer said that the determination of where the antennas were located had to do with the system being able to operate and reach the holes that we had in our system. And that's how the location was determined.
Okay. And I think you're stating that this is an AT&T project and that, in fact, it's needed to tie in from where the towers will come down on the sewer plant, and that it'll cover the boardwalk area, and that it'll be used for city emergency purposes. Is that correct?
It's a rehash of the prior meeting. Time out. It's a rehash of the prior meeting. It's gone beyond the scope of this testimony that was vetted at the last meeting by the other witnesses.
Okay. So who will actually be part of the determination of where the towers will be placed?
The board will decide based on the application as presented.
Your board or the building board?
Our board. The board is going to determine board is going to decide this application as presented in the site plan. Site plan depicts where these installations are going to be located.
Okay, so they're proposing where they're going to be located, and the board has to approve that.
Correct.
Okay, just, you don't mind, because you keep mentioning a few different boards involved.
No, I only mentioned my board.
Well,
You
wasn't
mentioned
sure if
other
you
boards.
talked-
I didn't
building
mention other boards. You did.
Yeah. Okay. So What was, in terms of the 200-foot, I'm not allowed to ask about the notification?
Not at this point. That was, I already ruled on that at the very beginning of the hearing. And I said that that notice was proper, and that's no longer an issue.
All right, so then I'll have to just consider either you finish tonight and I can comment, or you won't finish tonight, and I'll just hope that I can figure out when the next...
Mr. Magnoli, do you have any other questions for Mr. Lucas this evening?
Yeah, I did, but I don't think I'd be able to ask them.
Okay, thank you. That is all. I don't see anyone else with their hand raised. Mr. Lewis?
All right. Judy, we'd like to go to your next witness.
Okay, my last witness, Paul. Raise your right hand, and you have. Good job.
Okay, Mr. Ricky, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and I know that you testified at the last meeting, so your qualifications were already put forth.
I did not testify at the last hearing, Mr.
You didn't?
I did not.
Okay, I thought you did. Sorry about that.
Yeah, quickly your qualifications.
Ricky, RICCI. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed since the year 2000. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have a master's degree in city and regional planning, which I received from Rutgers University in 1997.
All right, you're good. Thank you very much. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you.
You had me at masters.
I have testified in front of the board before as well.
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ricci.
Paul, let's start with the most important thing that everyone wants to see. Let's do the photo synth, and then you can address my height variance and the actual relief I'm seeking from the board.
Okay.
So Paul, while you're pulling them up and sharing, you were responsible and did the photo synth that the board is going to see just now, or right now?
Yes.
Okay, and so they are, Irina, if I'm correct, A5?
I'm on 8.7, and I have two separate ones. I have one that was provided to me, but it's scanned. So I wanted to use mine that's a little clearer resolution-wise, but they're identical.
Sure. They are marked as Exhibit A7. That's correct.
Okay, great.
The photographic simulations, they're dated May 26th, 2020. They will be similar in terms of the orientation of the photographs depicted by the previous witness. I was the preparer of that aerial. We're not showing the location 5 in these simulations. I do have a separate simulation for Area 5 if the board would like to see that as well. In terms of the simulations, I think the board has already been oriented to locations that correspond with the photo simulations. Here we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. The goal here is to show the simulations from, essentially approximately a 90-degree angle from each portion of the site, so that the board has a good representation of what the simulations would look like from each vantage point. And initially, when we submitted the simulations, we chose the color of the building that was the darker color, and we received comments from the board planner that they believed that color, I believe, was too dark and did not fit in with at least what her recommendation as to the appropriate type of screening and shielding. And I think it was her opinion, we'll hear from her, that potentially that darker color created more mass. So from a planning standpoint, it's our goal to place these antennas on the building in the least obtrusive means fashion possible. Excuse me. You saw the previous simulations from the site engineer that showed the antenna without the stealthing option. And, sometimes I might jump forward and think the board may ask me, well, which option do you think is better? It's really us trying to provide the board with as many options as possible. It's your community, so that you can choose an option that best fits Asbury, that you think is the best for this location. Okay. In terms of your ordinances, they do encourage stealthing. So we started out with the stealth design. And here we're showing it in lighter colors. This is from location 1, approximately 460 feet southeast of the site. And as we show the enclosures on the top of the building as such. From location 2, it's approximately 450 feet to the west of the site. Again, here we are showing you the enclosures. Again, with the lighter color, the intent here was to provide the board with an option that doesn't show the physical antenna. And we do this in a manner in an attempt to make it conform and look as part of the building to the maximum extent possible, given the location of the antennas on the roof line. And then just moving forward, 550 feet southwest of the site. Again, we're showing with the arrows. Unfortunately, I'm not as good as our site engineer. I try to actually play with my tools in Adobe. I wasn't able to show arrows and symbols without it just providing a comment box. So I will work on that in my own time. But again, on the roof line in this location, we are showing the 4 locations of the antenna on the roof line. Again, the lighter color matching the accent color of the building to again try to make this the least obtrusive orientation possible. And then the closest location, and this is the one that potentially signifies mass of the concealment versus having the individual panel antenna. The antenna would be concealed at this location. However, clearly, if you enclose the antenna, it would result in more mass. However, there can be arguments made in both ways, whether just showing the antenna as what they are would have less mass, and that's one way the board could go. But we're providing that option either way. And here we're showing the worst case potential scenario of the antenna concealed and showing the 2 antenna array at this location. This is Fairweather.
Paul, can you show me? I did ask you to do one from further down Sunset. Can you show that one, please? And we can mark that as A8.
Okay, and then at approximately, this photograph was taken, let me get the exact address. I believe it's around 550 Sunset Avenue area, approximately 750 feet west of the site. And again, we show the concealment panels on top of the roof line. Again, sometimes contrary to belief, as you move further away from the site, the line of sight to the antenna and the concealment panels will increase. However, they will appear to be much smaller on the roof line. Clearly, if I took pictures immediately adjacent to the building and took a picture shooting up the building, the antenna and the panels would not be visible at those locations. So we chose locations in every vantage points where, in my opinion, is the most conservative approach to show the visibility of these concealment panels. And in this term, the pictures speak for themselves. It shows the board what the potential visual localized impact is at each location.
Great, Paul. Now, do you want to address my D6 height variance and
Yeah, I guess I should stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing so we can see you. How about that?
Okay. Okay, as indicated, we are seeking the D6 height variance. Based on the testimony from the site engineer, we're seeking a height of approximately 81 feet. That is approximately 9 feet above the parapet, and the roof is currently at 69.32 feet. I noticed that the R3 district permits a height of 5 stories and 60 feet today. While this is considered a type D6 use variance, I noticed that the criteria for granting the variance is not as stringent as a typical D1. Being what the court has indicated is that the focus in terms of the negative criteria is on the ability of the site to accommodate the problems associated with the increased height. And we don't have to reconcile this use from the municipal master plan. I also note that wireless telecommunications facilities are a permitted conditional use in the zone. So it's a use that the governing body has anticipated as being appropriate at this location. And with all applications, when we are co-locating, I think it's important to mention that when we are co-locating on an existing building, it's our way of trying to provide the least obtrusive means of providing coverage to the area. Clearly, if we can't find existing structures, we would have to build a new tower, and that would be much more visually unappealing to a community. And that's why we are where we are today. I think it's also important to mention that wireless telecommunications facilities promote the general welfare of the community. That's based on the issuance of an FCC license, and that's well understood, I believe, today. These provide access to prompt, reliable information, family interactions, 911 calls, and here we heard the testimony about FirstNet and the benefits that provides to emergency responders. While not traditionally required for a D6 height variance, I note that this site is particularly well suited as well. We heard from the RF radio frequency engineer that this facility is needed to provide capacity to the service area. It's at the best fit and right height to provide additional service to the area. And again, there would not be a need to construct a new tower. So from a land use planning standpoint, this again is a highly desirable location. I've testified on many of these applications, and I know this is your community, you're very sensitive to this application, but in terms of the height being added to the building, this is, in our terms, a very modest increase in height. I know I did review your wireless ordinance. I know because we're providing equipment to first responders that the board planner has indicated that all the city's ordinances do not apply to us, but we meet many of the purposes of your wireless ordinance, provide for full wireless communication services within the city, while at the same time minimizing the total number of personal wireless service facilities, enhance the ability of the providers of personal wireless services to provide such services to the community quickly, effectively, and efficiently, encourage the utilization of existing structures, such as tall buildings, bell towers, and municipal structures to mount and install personal wireless telecommunications. And finally, I don't want to run through these every single point, but to encourage as many antennas as possible of many of the wireless communications carriers as possible to be co-located on the fewest number of existing structures within the city. So we advance multiple purposes of your wireless ordinance as well. And I note that we would meet location priority number 4 in the city's wireless ordinance, as the building is taller than 4 stories and 45 feet in height, and is located within a residential district in the city. So your ordinances are encouraging us at this location for the reasons I mentioned as well. In terms of the negative criteria, wireless telecommunications facilities don't create the same type of negative impacts that are traditionally associated with a use variance application. These are passive uses. They don't create population, noise, increased demand on sanitary, sewer, and septic. There's minimal traffic associated with them. The only potential negative impacts are associated with the localized potential impact of adding the antennas from a visual perspective. We showed you the simulations in that regard, and we're trying to work with the board to provide these antenna in the least obtrusive means possible to the board. I just wanted to also point out that I did look at specific requirements of your height ordinance, and section 3068.3. And just to give you an idea of how traditionally in a building that it does anticipate other structures, penthouse, elevator shafts, and the like, it says that mechanical opportunities, I can't pronounce that correctly, such as condensers, elevator, penthouses, exhaust fans, air conditioning equipment, and other similar equipment are exempt from height restrictions. Doesn't apply to us, but it shows how similar structures can be placed on the roof, provided that they do not extend more than 12 feet above the maximum height limitations, cover no more than 20% of the roof area, and are properly shielded by a parapet wall. Here we are proposing approximately a 9-foot increase to the existing roof line. We propose to screen the antenna in this area when the existing penthouses will be under 20% of the roof area. So in terms of adding additional structures on top of the roof, we're largely consistent with the intent of your zone plan in this regard as well. And we heard from the radio frequency engineer, the appropriate height is dictated by specific radio frequency engineering requirements. And without that height, service cannot be provided, and the system essentially would not work and be useless. And I note that it's well settled under the SMART decision, which is the leading case regarding wireless telecommunications, is that when the height is necessary to effectuate the use, in fact, that warrants a special reason of itself of granting the variances. And I don't want to get into the multiple case law and the like, but just to be clear, the courts on other matters have indicated that the replacement of a 75-foot tower with a 197-foot tower in the Kingwood case would be a minimum intrusion by, just to give you a barometer of what the courts have indicated in this regard. So in this regard, we believe that the height being proposed above the roof line, that's largely consistent with your height regulations in terms of penthouses and the like, is largely consistent with the intent and purpose of your zone plan as well. So we believe this is a very good application that warrants the D6 height variance relief.
Thank you, Paul. I don't have anything else in regard to his testimony.
Are there any board members that have any questions for Mr. Ricci?
I have a question that may have been appropriate for your engineer, but this handout that you gave us, that the nearby properties, how their opinion on if they wanted the antennas or not, can you clarify what it means when they say the RF rejects? Who's RF?
That was the radio frequency engineer, Dan Panesso, the person who testified at the last hearing, when they went through the site, when he went through it with Chris, and they talked about that it couldn't fit from a radio frequency. That's the radio frequency engineer.
Okay, so it couldn't go to these places because it's too close to the other site?
Yeah, that's what he talked about last time.
Okay, now these are all on, it looks like around on the east side. Is it possible to look at other areas in the city?
The radio frequency engineer is in here, and he discussed all those different areas last time and talked about where it had to be in the search ring, and we just supplied that list because the board had asked for it at the end of the hearing. And the radio frequency engineer is in here, and I'm the attorney. I'm useless when it comes to that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just can't honestly remember what he said because it was so long ago, but I do remember him providing testimony on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ricci from the board? All right. Do we have any questions for Mr. Ricci from our planners? Donna, do you have anything?
No, but if anybody had a question about the clarifying, like what Brittany was asking,
About other sites?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of points made by Mr. Ricky that, you know, we saw information from the RF engineer that indicated what this site yields for AT&T. But we did not see comparisons of other sites. I mean, they gave us that list that they evaluated, you know, whether certain other locations, whether they were too close to existing facilities or too far away to provide the benefit that they were looking for. But we never actually saw mapping that illustrated whether any of the other acceptable sites had similar coverage, and we didn't see if modifications to this site did not have substantially decreased coverage. So, you know, when Mr. Lucas and Mr. Ricky say things like, this is the best, it's not qualified. This is what they presented, and it is what suits their needs. But it is not necessarily the best situation. So what they're asking the board to consider is for what they want to do, which suits their needs, which is to provide the coverage that shows in that map with the antennas that they have to use. That's the arrangement, those are the heights, gets them the coverage that shows in that map.
Okay, I'd like to just step in here and address that based upon Dan's testimony. Dan testified that the other sites didn't work from an RF standpoint. He did not run propagation maps that would show you nothing there. He said it didn't work. He was accepted as a professional in the field of radio frequency engineering. He also said that this site and the lowest that they could have these antennas to provide the coverage, and he did show you all the coverage. He also stated that under our FCC license, we're required to provide coverage to our customers. So we have to do that. Also, because we're conditionally permitted use, we don't have to show you under the laws in the state of New Jersey and the case law alternatives because we're conditionally permitted use. So we don't have to prove the use part of it. And under the case law in New Jersey, we don't have to talk about alternative sites.
That's fine, but don't tell us it is the best.
I'm almost done.
Solution.
So
That's their
we
opinion.
did that because it was asked for. Also, under the FCC, each carrier designs their network under the FCC rules, and no one else can tell them how to design a network. If they have a coverage gap and they need 16 antennas, 20 antennas, 12 antennas, that is up to the carrier and the FCC. A municipality or someone cannot tell them how to redesign a site. I'm sorry, but that's the law. Now I'm done. So if you want to talk, go ahead.
Donna, do you have anything else to add or ask?
No, I made my point. I mean, it's their opinion that it's the best situation. And I'm saying that wasn't presented as part of their expert testimony. It's what suits them. I totally agree with what Ms. Fairweather says about what the case law and what the actual statutory requirements are. But you know, again, this is what suits their situation. It is not the best situation.
Were there other acceptable sites? Maybe I'm forgetting that.
That was that list. They went around and
well, the sites that they approached, but there wasn't another site that was deemed available to them, correct?
Not necessarily not suited. That's the
Right.
distinction.
Yeah, available, not necessarily well suited. Yeah. Any other questions from the board professionals or from board members at this point?
I have a quick question. What are the materials of this stealthing, whether it's the dark one or the light one? Is that brick?
Yeah, Rick, Paul.
It's a composite material. It's basically a plastic with the insulation between. It's a sandwich basically of a plastic, and then a insulation, another side of plastic. And
So
then
how do you match the color, whether it's the light or the dark?
yes, yeah, the color can be matched perfectly, and so can the texture as well.
Okay, so because it's a brick building, so
Yeah, they'll have imprints of it basically.
it'll be like a faux brick.
Yep.
Okay.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Russell, I just want to bring up to the board that I know that we asked for, thank you very much to the team for also proposing the light one, but that light color, I saw them just a few months ago painting that. So I know that like if we decide that we like the light one and, and then the condo association paints that, black in 2 years, is your stealthing paintable? In other words, then then it's going to stick out that those are light. Personally, I like the darker one because I feel like it matches the base brick color and looks a little bit more like architecture. But that light color, which is the strip, I know that they just repainted that. I can't remember what it was, if there was a natural color there before, or if it was a concrete. Donna, you're shaking your head, but you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, that was, classic, just concrete cast.
Yeah, I don't know why they painted it. I think that was
dingy
pretty
and 50 years
pathetic.
old.
What?
Because it was 50 years old and dingy looking and pitted from, sea air and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I just, they maybe could have resurfaced it. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that they painted it.
Those screening panels, if the building changes its color, or is a good question.
I mean, I know it's as easy as saying it could be painted, but that's also, those are pretty big surfaces. So that does add to the cost of the condo association to have to paint those down the road. I would imagine they probably won't ever paint the brick, but I mean, who knows? They might. Right.
Gary,
I don't know the answer to that because there's issues with RF interference that possibly could come into play here. I don't believe it's an issue from what I haven't run into the situation where we had to paint them. Usually they're cast the color that need to be cast and it doesn't change. There's a vinyl wrap that's usually done. If it needed to change, they would do a vinyl wrap on it. But I'm not sure whether they would paint it. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Are you talking about painting the screens in the future at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine there's something in the lease agreement that would address maintenance and the ability of either side to make changes.
Well, they can't make changes to once the stealthing is approved by the board and it's up, and they can't touch it because it's scientific and sensitive. And we have to maintain it. It can't look bad.
I don't want to go too deep into this because it's kind of irrelevant what the condo association may or may not do in the future. But I understand your point, Catherine. Okay.
Yeah, we just need to take that into consideration, I think, as far as, how it works moving forward as well.
Okay, any further questions at this time, or can we open it up to the public?
I have a question.
All right, Christopher.
There is any kind of similar antenna in town right now in any other building?
You mean that have stealthing on it?
Yeah.
Not that we know, none of ours.
From another company?
That we wouldn't know because antitrust keeps us from kind of monitoring each other. I can tell you I've represented AT&T for over 20 years, and we have done church steeples. We have done just about any type of creative structure on top of a building, and it's beautiful. And Gary, you want to talk about, like you said, it's cast, so you want to talk about how they do it so that it truly matches?
Yeah, it's basically, they take a picture of it and they match the texture and the color from the picture, essentially. It's all calibrated, and they basically make a stamp out of it. So it matches pretty perfectly. It's hard to find a difference between the two. So it's a really nice installation.
By any chance,
I've done a bunch of these.
by any chance, do you guys have any rendition of another buildings that you already have done in another city?
Not off the top. I know I have them because I've done a bunch of these. I don't know exactly where I could get it right now though.
Because it would be nice to see how it looks instead of a how it actually looks.
Gary, can you, in your experience, and Paul, in yours, you guys have been doing this a lot of years, that the photo sims that we present at boards are an accurate depiction of what we will do with the site?
Yes.
Yeah, it will look like that. They're pretty good.
Okay, no further questions. Thanks.
Excuse me, have you had any problems with lightning or severe storms damaging your equipment?
No, these are all grounded, and no, I haven't run into that. I'm not on the technical side, so I don't know what they do with emergencies. I imagine that there have been outages due to lightning, but these are all protected. That side I don't really know about, but they're designed to be protected.
All right, any other questions? If there's no other questions from our board or board professionals, then I would suggest we open this up to the public.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. I have one member of the public with their hand raised. Mr. Mignoli, go ahead and ask your question for Mr. Ricky.
Yes, Ernest Mignoli, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5, Asbury Park. Building is almost in view of where I live. And did you state that most of the tower that's the roof that's needed for coverage will be the east side of the roof? Or is it going to be on all corners?
There's going to be multiple sectors that were largely testified by the previous witness when he showed the arrows. I can rebring the sims up, but there's
Oh, no,
Can't see.
I thought you just said that most of everything that you need is going to be mounted on the east side because you're trying to get the kind of boardwalk coverage and
No,
that
I did
kind
not
of
say
thing.
anything to that effect. I'm sorry. I did not.
Okay. Okay. So the how many enclosed you're the planner, how many enclosed, I don't know what you call them, encasements with the antenna inside in all are you going to put on the roof?
There's 5.
5?
Yes.
Okay. And is that like one on the east side of the roof, one on the west side, one on the north, one on the south, one in the middle, or?
Let me share the screen.
I don't think
I'm
Mr.
sorry?
Mignoli has video.
No, he could just tell me. I don't need to see it.
Okay.
It's easier for me to share the screen if I.
Mr. Ricky, he's on the phone, so he doesn't have he's not on the computer.
No. Yeah, but I have to refer to
okay.
Also, so I don't memorize all the information. I'm sorry.
Well, I understand. Is it a rectangular roof or a square? It's probably a rectangular roof, correct?
Well, the roof is kind of irregularly shaped, and essentially you have to imagine. I mean, the engineer can probably explain it better than I can from a technical standpoint. But there's essentially 5 sector options, and those options are really around the perimeter generally of the roof line, and then as well as the generator structure. So there, if there's one on the east side, there's one on the south, there's one on the west, one on the south, 2 on the east, and 1 on the north. So it surrounds the rooftop.
That's perfect. That's what I asked. Thank you.
Okay.
That's perfect. So it's going to be all around the roof. Is that roof? There any? Since you're the planner, is there any population that lives up there that you have to be concerned with? Like, there's no penthouse people living up on that roof level, right?
Well, they have to prepare. This is not my area of expertise, but I know from doing a lot of this, there has to be FCC compliance reports that are done.
No, I just meant, there's nothing in your way up there. It's kind of an open roof, right? It's not.
I have not physically been on top of the roof, but I've seen it in terms of how the roof is generally laid out in plans. And you know, penthouse structure, then it's relatively a flat structure. So So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
That's not a let me help here. That's not he's asking about residential. There's no residential use up on that roof. Is there?
Oh, thank you. So in other words, the penthouses are below the roof.
That's what I want to find out.
Well, me too. Me too.
That's what I'm trying to help. I'm trying to get you an answer.
Gary, do you
You're
know?
trying to help me?
Yes.
Okay.
That
happens every 10 years.
Space
Go ahead.
at the top. Correct.
Repeat it, Gary.
There's no living space above the roof. That's correct.
Okay.
It's all below the roof line.
Okay. So that answers that. So you pretty much have what's as a planner, you're going to work with the engineer to optimize the area that you want to, let's say, enhance for AT&T reception. I believe it was told along the boardwalk. So I think that your emphasis will be towards the shoreline, and you'll place them accordingly. But there's no impediment up there, so that answers that. The other question I have in terms of planning, whatever color is chosen. Right now I'm at the Sunset Lake. I'm looking right at the building, and you look at the roof, you can't see anything. Now, when your structures are up there, they're going to be 9 feet above, I guess, the building line, above the concrete or the brick, whatever up top there of the facade. And so when I'm sitting here, when this project goes in, I should probably see 4, 5, or 6 9-foot enclosure structures with some various amounts of antennas inside. Is that what it'll look like, regardless of the color?
yes, there's.
Like I'll be able to see the structures, correct?
Yes, because we did show simulations. I guess I wasn't aware that you weren't able to see them, so I think you're at a disadvantage.
Well, no, I think better than that. Right now, I'm sitting right outside the building and looking right at it. And if you look across the whole roof, there's nothing sticking up. But when your project goes in, there'll be 4 or 5 things that are going to be 9 foot, sort of like they'll be in the silhouette. They'll just be whatever color they are. You're going to see 4 or 5 things around the top of that roof that aren't there now, 9 feet above the top of the building. Correct?
Yes, from the plan perspective, there's 5 of them in terms of the sectors, but from each vantage point, you don't see each one because the building itself will partially block. So
I'm aware.
So you see 3, 4, or 2 from the various vantage points is the way where they show on the simulations.
But regardless of color, I mean, they'll show up as structures up there. The public probably won't even know what they are, but they're your enclosures, which include various amounts of antennas, and you enclose them, I guess, to make it more aesthetically pleasing than seeing a bunch of antennas in groups. Correct? Is that why you do that?
That is the goal of this stealth. Yes.
Okay. All right. And
Ernest, Russell, they look like, I'm characterizing because you can't see, they look like elevator shafts. Very similar to what you would think an elevator shaft would look like on top of a building.
Yeah, but what's the, Mr. Planner, what is the footprint of one of them? How many square feet?
Oh, I mean,
because an elevator shaft is pretty big. I mean, it can.
I don't have that number right in front of me.
I mean, is it 2 feet by 3 feet, or is it 30 feet by 20? It's smaller, right? It's not like an elevator. An elevator shaft is usually pretty big, 10 by 15, 10 by 20. Well, you're in total encasing, I'm going to guess, is probably could be as much as, I don't know, 4 by 4 or 4 by 5.
The planner said he didn't have that information right in front of him. I think that might have been a better question for the engineer.
Okay, well, I thought the planner would kind of, since he's planning the color and the shape and the enclosure, that he would know the footprint of one of those.
Sorry, he didn't engineer it. Do you have another question for him?
I'm sorry?
I said, do you have another question for him?
Yeah, I think I do. The generator, it's going to be gas supplied, natural gas?
That's a question for the engineer.
Okay. Are you going to put a structure up there to enclose as a planner, to enclose a generator?
The engineer testified to that.
Okay, but I thought the planner is the one that places it.
No,
I don't place it now.
no. The engineer testified to the construction details and what's going to go up there, basically. And the planner is giving you planning testimony.
Okay, doesn't the planner plan where it's going to go?
No.
No.
Okay. That's it for now. That's it for now.
Well, also, for the members of the board, since we did ask Mr. Lucas a couple of questions, he's subject to cross-examination on the limited questions and answers that he gave. So, if Mr.
About that? You mean about that?
Only about what he testified to very shortly. It's not reopening his entire testimony. It's just what he testified to. He only answered one or two questions.
All right. So, but before the end of the application, it might be available to the public and the board, the square footprint of these encasings, correct?
Everything is on the plans.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Well, then you must have the plans right there.
Well, the board has the plans. You can't see them.
I know, but then can someone just tell me what the footprint is? I was just asking how many square foot it is.
I don't know if
Because
anybody can.
when the chairman says it's the size of an elevator shaft, that's big. I mean, if you look at the elevator shafts up on roofs in Asbury.
I didn't say it was the size of one. I was characterizing that from a distance, it has that appearance in how people visualize.
It could be a mini.
Yeah, they're not very big, but that's what they evoked to me. So I was characterizing it to you.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so then I guess if anyone on the board just couldn't look at their plan and tell me like the square footage of one of them.
I think that was all testified to by the other engineer at the last meeting.
I think so. And you know what? It's so long ago.
Yeah, but we're not going to revisit testimony that was already submitted into the record unless the chairman directs us.
Okay.
Do you have
All
any
right.
questions for my
Okay.
planner?
I'm done.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Magnoli. Okay, I don't have any other public attendees with their hands raised. Mr. Lewis?
All right. So, Ms. Fairweather, if you do not have any other witnesses, I do not believe you do.
No, I do not, sir.
Okay. Would you like to close this up or wrap this up for us, or?
Would you like to have public comment before I give my final statement, or would you like the final statement first?
Jack, what procedure here?
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you. You're the one presenting here.
What would be your preference?
I'd like public comment first, please.
Okay, let's get the public comment.
Wait, before we do that.
Yeah, before we do that, yeah, let's have the board maybe talk about it a little bit and bring up any issues or comments or concerns that we have before we turn it over to the public. So,
Don't you usually get the public comment and then make all, because you take the public comments into consideration.
I just had a question. I'm not ready to discuss it yet. If that's okay.
Sure.
Russell.
Go right ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So for the planner, I don't know where he went.
Paul, where did you go? 'Cause I'm sure he can hear us. He probably just.
He's muted.
He's muted and he's gone.
Below you on my screen.
He will be back because I'm going to text him right now and say, where are you? So he will be back.
Okay.
And if he doesn't immediately appear, I will call him.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Paul, hi. One more question for you.
Paul, you spoke to you went very quickly over the benefits of the AT&T. You mentioned something about emergency services. What exactly are these towers going to do to benefit the city?
I think it's generally understood. And what I was saying is that the reason that people utilize wireless telecommunications, a cell phone, is you have the ability to make emergency calls. You have the ability to have family interactions, and you have access to prompt, reliable information, right? During a storm or the like. Those are the primary benefits of a cell phone. Also, in this context, with the FirstNet, we heard from the radio frequency engineer the separate band that emergency responders can use to communicate. So I think those are the three or four or five principal benefits to a community associated with this facility.
So you're saying emergency services cell phone usage, family time? You
Family
lost me there.
interactions, the ability to make emergency calls during times of need. And I just also mentioned that we know that cell phone use is more than half of the US population uses cell phone as its primary phone. I think you can understand that the days of the old copper phones are kind of diminishing now, and it's becoming less and less common for people even to maintain an old-fashioned copper phone line these days. So the need for good cell service is just increasing as years go on as well. So,
And this is just cell phone coverage, not internet, correct?
well, there's data associated with these plans, right? So the ability of the cell phone coverage and that data coverage, I'm not the radio frequency engineer, but I know that's you're receiving
Right.
both.
No, I understand data, how you can use your phone. I'm just thinking more people now teleworking with COVID and moving forward. Is this going to help with internet, people working in the city?
Clearly, and the goal is also, it's not just like it used to be, like in-car coverage is what the cell phone companies used as a priority. Now the priority is to have better in-building coverage, because that's where it's becoming more and more needed as, I guess, as the demographic and shifts in how society uses these devices has changed and continues to change over the last 20 years or so. So yes, there's numerous benefits.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And Judith, I don't know if you can speak for this. Is there any way you can give us a summary of why this is the best site? I know we keep going around in circles here, but I honestly can't remember because it was so long ago.
So the testimony. Sure. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overspeak you.
No, I think you're good.
Okay. All right. So yes. So what was talked about at the last hearing by the radio frequency engineer and the site acquisition person was that because of how unique the city is, because it's a beautiful shore community, because you do have one tall building that we would love to go on, but we can't get a lease with the owner, that you don't have tall buildings for us to go on. And the city does not, we were at the water sewage treatment plant. We thought we could build a monopole there. They said we can't because they need the property in order to run the sewage treatment plant. So the radio frequency engineer and the site act person went over the fact of all the different places they went to try to be able to find antennas that worked from a radio frequency standpoint and from a landlord standpoint, where the landlord would let us go. This building was the best one that they could get both landlord consent and work from a radio frequency standpoint. The first net that Paul was talking about that Dan testified to was after 9/11, when New York couldn't talk to New Jersey, Monmouth County couldn't talk to Essex County. The FCC dedicated a bandwidth, and AT&T won the bid on it to operate it. Your city of Asbury, your police and fire use FirstNet. So all of their emergency services need to go over this system. And Dan said that they use it and they need it because they have coverage issues there. And this site will help them. Also, your county uses it. So that's the whole idea of public safety with FirstNet. Everyone needs this for public safety, besides the fact of being able to, emergency services, they use it. A fireman uses it to look at plans of a house. Doctors use it. These phones are used now for everything. They're not a computer in your house that you had talked about. They're not, Wi-Fi service, although it can be a Wi-Fi hotspot if you need it. But yes, that's the emergency services that Dan talked about. And this, okay. When you think about how beautiful your city is, where else can you put antennas? There was a site to build a 120-foot pole and on a private property that was used as commercial, and AT&T did not think that it would work because you want a 120-foot pole in the middle of your beautiful city. No, you don't.
And I actually live at 200 Deal Lake, and I know last summer there was a tower that was temporarily put up by the sewage treatment plant. Yes. Is that what you were saying, that you tried to do that, but it was only temporary because you couldn't do it full time?
City government was great to us. They let us put it there to see if we could keep it there permanently. We took up too much room. The city the treatment plant needed the room. We took up too much ground space. And this summer, they let us just put a couple of little antennas on the top. They won't let us put a whole array up there that we would need to, because it takes up too much space, the building and things like that. But they have been very good for emergency services to let us put up things temporarily, but they won't let us go permanently, and I completely understand. They've been nothing but wonderful to us.
And you said there was one other high-rise that would have worked, but you said the owner wasn't willing to work
The
with you.
beautiful high-rise they just built is wonderful. But we can't get a lease. They don't want the antennas up there because they have penthouses and things like that. Your beautiful new high-rise in the city, we can't get it. And we understand that. It's beautiful, it's extremely expensive. They have penthouses and they don't want antennas up there. That's why it's so hard with your city, because of how, it's a lovely residential shore community.
So you're saying this is the only site that works, in your opinion, because of the frequency from the engineer, and the owner is willing to work with you?
Yes, and
that's what this was.
That's not, just for the record clear, that's not my testimony because I'm the lawyer, but that was the testimony of
the testimony given.
And the
Okay.
site. Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we want to go into public comment, or do we want to talk as a board first?
You might be influenced by what the public has to say.
All right, that's fine.
Probably would be best to get public comment and then deliberate.
All right, sounds good. Then why don't we go into public comment? So for everyone that's part of the public that is participating or wants to participate, this would be the time that you can give testimony about your feelings about this project one way or the other, and you can give your own testimony. So Irina?
Can I get a motion to open to public comment, please?
I will set a motion to open public comment, please.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, I have one hand raised. Hold on one second. Let's get the clock ready. Actually, Jack, do you want to swear in Mr. Mignoli?
Yes. Mr. Mignoli?
Yes.
Yes, please raise your right hand.
Yes.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
How long do I have to speak?
Please state your name and your address, and the board secretary will tell you your time limitation.
Okay. Ernest Mignoli, 400 Deal Lake Drive, apartment 5D, Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Mignoli, you have 4 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
Okay. Would you give me a 1-minute warning, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to read from the American Cancer Society, a statement about radio frequency waves and cell phone towers. And one of the important parts is, it says, although the FCC and other agencies, federal agencies, basically say that everything is safe, and it's known that a lot of these studies are based on 40, 50-year-old analysis by the FCC. In the medical realm, you kind of have things like the American Cancer Society and some other ones throughout the world. And I just want to read a statement that they make. They say, although in short-term effects, there's no conclusive evidence that radio frequency towers increase the risk of cancer, etc. It says, however, this does not mean that the radio frequency waves from cell phone towers have been proven to be absolutely safe. Most expert organizations, that's medical, most expert, including the American Cancer Society, agree more research is needed to help clarify this, especially for any people with long-term of exposure, which means if somebody lives in a building, they're going to be exposed 24/7, 365. So that's my statement. The other thing is, relative to the building scape around here, I think the reason that a lot of these buildings that would be really opportune for these towers, that you go into the Esplanade, is because these buildings don't want that. If you look at the skyline and you look at these beautiful, clean buildings on the top, usually when you see an elevator shaft or a cell tower, it takes away from the aesthetic beauty. So the idea is, I think from my knowledge and from my Oprah, the Esplanade is in line for some major assessments. And I think the way this project was presented by the same management that's in the Esplanade, that's in my building, was when big projects come along and you need money, you kind of say to someone, okay, here, we have a...
No, just do one.
Okay. We have a company that will put in, and let's say they'll pay us, I don't know, the Santander, they paid them $500,000 one time. So they think, well, we could use that money for, assessment. But really, the people in the building don't really understand both the health effects and the reason why it's done. It doesn't improve a building for sure. I mean, no one agrees that, sticking up candles like on a birthday cake on top of any roof of any building
1 minute.
is an improvement. Okay, thank you. Is an improvement. So I Oprah'd and I got the information, and sure enough, I found that the management company, Townsend, is the same one for my building, and they're pretty much pitching to buildings like the Presidential or whatever, Santander, and the Esplanade, as a way to kind of get revenue. Not that it improves the building, and not that coverage is needed, but that it's a source of income. And I don't think that that's really telling the public the full story. So I would say that there's much better places you could put these towers, much closer to the water where you want coverage. And why not pitch some of the buildings along the boardwalk? I mean, there's Madison Marquette there. You have iStar. And they have all these buildings. I'm sure they would like a little income, and that's right where you want to be. So why are you going to be on the Esplanade, which is set back 3 blocks, and
Thank
you're
you,
straining?
Mr. Manola, your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Piccanoli. Okay, so if there's no more public comments, there's no one else that's come in the last 4 minutes?
I do not show any other hands raised, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, then I would propose that we close public session.
Motion to close?
Motion to close. Do I have a second? Second me, somebody.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. Sorry.
Now you have your discussion.
All right. I would love to.
Did Judith close?
Sum up, Judith?
No, the only thing that I'd like to say after is that the safety of it, I disagree with Mr. Magnoli, just in the fact that these radio waves have been around in use since World War II, and all of the medical professions, I just disagree with how he couched it, and that the output of the energy on this is all regulated by the FCC, which we proved were like tens and tens times below. That's all. And I ask that you please approve this application and remind you that I'm a conditionally permitted use. So the use isn't an issue here at all. It's just taking a look at our proposal. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, board, I'd love some discussion and comments on this, please. If you want me to go down the list, I'll be happy to. Brittany?
Yeah, so I've struggled with this one because I think that the site already, the Esplanade, is taller than what's permitted. It already stands out, kind of like Asbury Tower. I don't think by adding anything on the roof, it's physically, aesthetically, I guess, it's not going to improve. But the more that I've heard the testimony tonight, I know that we need the service, especially with emergency services, which is where I kind of think the benefit outweighs the con. As we all know, storms are coming every year, more and more. Just last week, we had a tropical storm hit and we lost power. We still need those services in the city to be operational when we don't have power. So I think that outweighs the, the aesthetics of the building. I think the applicant's done the best they can to make it fit on the site. I think if we do approve this, the only thing I have two conditions. I would like the trees planted along Webb, and I would defer to Donna for the type of architecture, because she knows this better than me, but I'm thinking that the light, the light, I forget what it's called, shade, what was it called? The walls, whatever it is, be as light as possible so it doesn't stand out. What is it? Stealth? Yeah. Did I get it right, Catherine? So yeah, if we can just, I would defer to Donna for that. But if I were to vote, I would approve based on those conditions. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Brittany. Catherine.
I agree with a lot of what Brittany just said. However, I think I lean, and I would like Donna's input on this as well. I personally lean towards the darker ones, and I definitely don't like them not without the stealthing. And I think that these photos, I've been laying out all the photos kind of side by side so I could see which ones I like the best. I think that the photo's a little it's not a blue sky, it's a cloudy sky. So they're really blending in here. So I think that we have to take that into consideration, not sort of, it's not a complete, like a correct representation of what that would look like. There aren't one on a cloudy day, a dark cloudy day, or a blue sky. Personally, I think the one with the darker just goes with the architecture a little bit more. I feel like those light ones, although it's a good try, to me they're really sticking out like a sore thumb. And again, they don't look bad in these photos because this is it's a white sky. It's a very white sky. So I think that's probably my biggest concern. I think that, look, it's hard to say, like, I don't want this because, like, I'm on this thing 24/7 and we all need it. And I call the police a lot. And so, I feel like it's a safety issue for the town and for me personally and my family. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Christopher Gonzalez. I think you're muted.
Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to live behind the Explanada, and when I was looking on the window, my view was that building, and always was a tall building, but it didn't bother me at all. Now, adding something on top, yes, it's gonna make it taller. Yes, it's gonna stick up and everything, but like you're all saying, it's more like a safety issue for the better future for everybody in terms of communication, and it's gonna help us all, including the police, including the fire department, people that are using AT&T in the area. I do have a friend who actually has AT&T service in that building where I used to live, and her service is really bad. But I mean, if it's needed, it's needed. So I have no objection about these antennas going into the roof of this building.
Okay, thank you.
Color? What's your preference on color?
On color, actually, I would prefer a darker color. A lighter color actually will stick out more than a darker color. That's just my opinion.
Which one was it? I'm sorry. I'm
darker. A darker.
Thank you.
I still say ask Donna's opinion. I'm favoring the lighter. Just put that on the record.
Actually, the decision on the color is your decision, not the staff's decision.
I just want to hear Donna's opinion since she knows the area better.
I think the darker color recedes in general.
Donna, do you want to answer that now, or would you like to answer that later?
Let's see if we get more consensus on everybody wants the panels versus
okay, cool.
No panels.
All right, sounds good.
And Russell, can I add one more thing? I just thought of something else. last summer, as I mentioned, I live at, close to the boardwalk, and those temporary towers did go up, and they were very, what's the right word? Hideous. So that's another thing I want to consider too. If they keep having these towers pop up throughout the city, this might be the lesser of two evils. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
Thank you. Bonnie.
I don't really have much objection to that, especially on that building. I think that doing it on the tallest building is better than doing it on a shorter building, where if you're in the taller building, you don't want to look down on someone's roof and see the towers. So, no one's going to be looking down at this roof and seeing the tower. So I think it's better that it's on one of the tallest buildings. As for color, I would tend to go lighter. I think when you look up, it kind of blends in with the sky. But I don't really, the color is not that important, I don't think.
All right. Cool. Thank you. Tim.
Well, it sounds like it's something our community needs. As far as color, I prefer the lighter. And quite honestly, my only concern with this whole project has been the safety of residents and people around. The RF engineer did testify that, these signals do go out, not down. So, the residents, he testified that they're safe. And I believe they said that the access to the roof will be locked and monitored so that there's, God forbid somebody decides to go up on the roof into a dangerous environment, AT&T is alerted. As long as that's my understanding. So as long as that, that it's the rooftop is secured for safety reasons, then I really don't have an objection.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Problem with it. Really, as far as color is concerned, I don't care what color it is. Whatever the majority wants, let it be.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of the comments that have been made here. I agree with Brittany. I'd love to see trees planted, but obviously I like to see trees planted all over the city. So I think that would be something that I know that Donna put in her report that I'd like to see us consider. I do think the stealthing is far more attractive than the plain antennas. I'm on the fence whether it should be lighter or darker. I really don't have a preference. I just think the stealthing is really important. I also think that the usage is really important. I remember just last year being at the See Here Now music festival, and nobody could use their phone. And I thought at that time, wow, this is kind of interesting that I'm out on the beach with 40,000 people and I can't communicate to anyone. It made me feel a little uncomfortable and a little uneasy to be in such a crowded, dense, private environment. And there was zero communication, phone service, data service, all that stuff. And I wondered at that point, how safe that was. So I also agree with my colleagues here that I think this is a service that is important and is needed by the residents and the visitors, especially if we are going to continue to use Asbury Park as an entertainment destination. And you're going to be putting 40,000 people right on the water's edge. I think it's imperative that we have proper and safe communication. I also agree with Tim. I think the safety of the residents, the acknowledgement and the understanding and the approval of the residents in the Esplanade is also really important. I understand that the management company and or the board has the right to represent all of the residents in this case, and I just hope that that the residents that are living there are properly communicated to. But other than that, that's all I have at this point.
That it?
That's it, I believe. Does anyone else have any comments?
I'd just like to open it up to Donna and Doug if they have any other things that I would like to hear to consider in your opinion.
Donna?
What?
Okay,
Excuse me. What opinion do you want from the staff?
Just to see if there's anything in their professional opinion that we should, a condition that they would suggest, or anything in the report that, like how we usually do, Jack, right?
Okay, okay, all right.
Maybe I'm not wording it right, but you know how we usually go through, and if their statements are met.
The points in their report.
Okay, okay, okay.
The color of the, whatever it's called, I can't remember the name of it, the siding, it was in her report, so that's why I was asking her opinion.
right, so it sounds like there's a consensus of the board members that screening panels would be a satisfactory mitigating measure to the visibility issues of the antennas. Nobody wants to just see the antennas sticking above the roof line. Is that correct?
I would agree with that, and I think that I'm hearing the same thing generally from the board.
Okay, so that satisfies that part of the criteria. So then it's just a question of, because those screening panels create a visual impact themselves, we're trying to mitigate that impact. So there are some board members who seem to favor a darker color, other members who favor a lighter color. The applicant has testified that they can give us a fairly good color match to the building's brick, including mimicking the texture. And so in our report, I think what we had suggested as, you know, kind of the ideal configuration is to do a complete encompassing, like mimic the parapet wall, bring it all the way up around the entire building facade. So it just looks like another story instead of these scattered blocks of random whatever on the rooftop. So from looking at those photo simulations, is the board in the position that they don't think they have to go so far as to wrap the whole building, the individual blocks of screening is satisfactory? Or would you rather have the full parapet surround?
Well, I have to admit, I thought of that, but it never came up. I think that would be a cleaner look if it just looked like it was another story, as opposed to these, they're all kind of at different, what it seems to be like different angles. So they don't really look like they're part of the architecture. I think in some instances, like this one view from 6th Ave, I actually think this looks like it's part of the building. Like it looks like it's a tower that comes up. I think that's the best look, but I know that
that's also, is that also like the most constrained view shed also?
It is, yeah. I think that this view from the bridge looks a little haphazard, and because the blocks are all turned, but I think if there was like one darker, like the parapet just looked really high and it looked like there was another story up there, that would probably be the cleanest. So my initial thing earlier was, I thought, you know, as AT&T, you could have gone a step further. There was really no design kind of brought into this, you know, this thought process at all, which is a little disappointing, but it also is what it is. Anyway, I agree with that. Was that the recommendation, Donna, in the report?
I believe that was our preferred recommendation in the report to mitigate, because again, it's that massing, it's not just
yeah. So why wasn't that exercise? I'm just curious why AT&T wouldn't have done that exercise in general to just see what that looks like, or do you guys, did you, and you opted not to show it because it's a bigger cost?
No, I'm going to refer that to Gary. When you do a mass all the way around a building, structurally, it changes tremendously.
Yeah, so once you increase the area by going all the way around the building like that, the difference in the structural capacity of the building significantly reduces. So that's something that we typically would never do because of the forces that go onto the building are a bit higher than we would have to look into a lot of the building system and do a lot of modifications to it in order to support that, and a lot of testing. And that's a really intensive method of adding an additional story to the building is much more intensive than adding these concealment areas. It would be very costly, and I don't even know if it's possible, honestly.
You're talking about adding another story to a building that wasn't built for it.
Right.
Like wind loads and things like that.
Exactly.
Hang on. Do you have the roof plan, Mr. Lucas, handy? Can you share your
Yes.
screen? And can you just zoom in a little on the actual image as opposed to the yeah.
So these are angled purposely, right?
Yes.
So that
They're angled from the RF engineer to
got it. Okay, just want to make sure I understand.
Okay, and I'm sorry, and north is roughly up?
Straight up. Straight up.
Okay. So the easterly roof projection, your two panels are taking up at least 90% of that facade area.
Well, the facade would be considered this entire length here. So you would have to be along this face, would be that side of the building from the wind area perspective.
I'm talking about the projection, not the core of the building, where you have the two panels.
It's 90% of this area. Yeah, of this small area. Yeah, up here. Yeah, and maybe 75% of this small area, but that's not what we consider in, for the wind area of you consider the projected area of the entire length of the building.
No, I understand, but okay. I'm trying to, and if the board members just shut me down at any point, but I don't know if there's a way that because of the different view sheds up and down Sunset, are so much greater, you see so much more of what's on the roof across the lake and up and down the lakefront, as opposed to from 6th Avenue or from the side streets. Again, if it's, maybe it's not the whole building, it's just the parts of the building that have the greatest visual exposure. But that was the recommendation in our report. I don't know if there's a modification to that is suitable or acceptable. That it's, the various random, angled blocks that don't correspond to that visual weighting and the symmetry in the building. But, if you guys just want to go, we can just recommend that they mimic the color and texture of the brick facade and trim it maybe with a trim band in the corresponding white so that they look like they're pieces of the building just up on the roof.
So, and the engineer, I forget, I'm sorry, I can't find you on here. Gary, So you're saying you can't just take and outline the building with not another floor per se, but just like however tall the other pieces are? I think it's 6 foot.
I mean, it's about
You
10
can't
foot.
just like go around the perimeter of the building, 10
Yeah,
foot?
it's kind of a
That's
bit
another
much.
story is what you're saying, just an open, even though it would be open on top.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know, what does the rest of the board think? I've shared a lot of my opinions tonight.
I'm not sure that I see a higher profile parapet wall making this project or this design any better. I understand the masking suggestion, but I'm not sure that that is something that is going to make this project necessarily any better. I would prefer to see these individual footprinted stealth boxes be as integrated and designed well incorporated into the roof structure as much as possible. As a first artistic swipe, I think. That's just my instinct. Trying to build a whole parapet wall around this entire thing may prove to be very, very problematic and expensive, as he just testified to.
Yeah, I don't think that this is really bad. I just, I'm not sure any design thought went into it at all. They're really just, screens that are covering this. And I'm not, I'm not the designer for this kind of stuff, so I don't really know what the options are. But, we've only seen them without and with in a light and a dark. I'm not sure what other options there are for it.
Mr. Lucas, with putting a wall around that, would that cut down on the efficiency of the antennas?
No, that wouldn't change. That wouldn't change the efficiency of the antennas. That would remain the same. It's all RF transparent material.
Okay. Have you ever put a wall around it previously on any of your other projects?
Not to this extent. Yes, around like a bulkhead wall. That's a bit larger than this. I would do the whole thing, but nothing to this extent. No.
So this structural wall is really unnecessary then.
Yeah, the only other time I ran into this is when we've had new buildings that are being built, and we want to add our antennas to it. They proposed doing an entire floor, and that was kind of integrated into the design of it. So this is a little bit different. Not going back and retrofitting it. No, I've never ran into that.
Okay. All right, so we'll make it a much more difficult project.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat
I
that?
said it'll make the project a little more difficult and a little more costly for you also.
Yes, much more.
Okay, and I think our job is to make sure that people get good cell reception. I think that's what you want to get, not just to be caught up in the cosmetics, especially personal cosmetics of how we feel about what you're trying to do.
Well, I don't completely agree with that. I think it's part of our job, isn't it, to give some feedback on aesthetic? I mean,
I've sat on this board for years, and I think that we've overstepped our bounds on telling people what color their shutters should be and what colors their fences should be and everything else. I don't think that's our job all the time. I don't like the color of your shutters. Okay, well, let's do it another color. I'll be damned if somebody come over here and didn't like the shutters on my house or didn't like the foliage I had out in front of it and told me to change it.
I do think we need to be looking at the impact. I'm not necessarily convinced that what Donna's proposing is going to change the impact that much. It's less about color for me than it is the impact into the neighborhood visually.
Donna, did you give any feedback on, you kind of went over what you proposed in the report, but did you give your preference on color?
again, our preference is to mimic the brick color and the concrete banding. I realize, you know, if they're painting the concrete white at the moment or recently, and that's going to need maintenance to maintain that color combination.
Amen.
Yeah, long-term maintenance, that's problematic. But you know, Brittany's point, or I'm sorry, your point is, you know, well taken. The photo simulations show a very cloudy sky, so it makes the lighter panels seem to disappear. And you know, if it's a brilliant blue sky or, you know, a couple of clouds, then they're not going to seem so, you know, disappeared. It's kind of 50-50 whether it's the light or make it look like the building.
Yeah, I mean, something's always going to stick out, really. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the photo simulation sheet 4, which is from the bridge, looking east. And yeah, you know, if it's a cloudy day or overcast, the lighter colors might disappear more. Maybe we're going to be in a more overcast environment from here on out. It just feels like that.
Do the people, I guess the people in the building don't really care because nobody's here.
Well, apparently nobody cares because, I mean, I was really surprised we haven't seen the city historian comment on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great building.
Yeah.
Oh, also the tenants might not have been made aware. It's just the owners that are made aware, which I think is what was spoke to on Testament.
Right, but don't forget, you know, everybody, I know it's not popular or common or whatever, but, you know, if you're engaged in your community, you check for things like planning board meetings. I mean, in my town, we're 50 square miles, or yeah, of land area, and, you know, it's hard to get kind of motivated about, oh, where is that again? For some, you know, site plan application. You know, this is kind of sticks out in a notice.
I mean, Judith, did you guys get any feedback from the, I guess, who do you work with directly? The property manager, the building manager?
I don't, excuse me for the interruption. I think that's been fully vetted.
Okay.
If you recall the last meeting, they work with the board of directors, engages a management association to conduct the day-to-day affairs. They're their alter ego. They have a lease agreement with the association. So notice theoretically would trickle down through the responsibility of the board of directors to the unit owners.
Right, I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember. So I was just wondering what the owners were, you know, presented. Were they presented these same photo simulations?
I have probably not. I don't know. We would be speculating.
Right. Okay.
Well, my recommendation is just to make the existing design they have blend in as much as possible to the building texture and color. And to the point that Dan made, I have to disagree. I do think we have to take into account the color and the aesthetics of the building because that's in the code that it has to blend in with the neighborhood. So that's why I've been a little picky about this. So, but I've said all my opinions. I vote to, or, you know, my vote is to approve it. Just, I would like street trees and I would like the coverings to match the building as close to as possible.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion.
Why don't you make a motion?
Okay, I make a motion to approve, I don't even know the address.
321 Sunset.
321 Sunset Ave, with conditions. I've never done this. I don't know if I'm doing it right.
So tell me your conditions. I'll help you.
Okay. So I would like street trees on Webb.
Panels, and you're in favor of the panels mimicking, and Donna, jump in if I mischaracterize, mimicking the building facade and the parapet wall to blend in as such.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would be to approve a D6 height variance as
Yep.
well as the conditions of street tree planting.
Street tree planting?
Didn't we have that in
Yeah,
there?
that's the street tree planting on Webb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's 8 trees along Sunset and Park
Okay, I
Avenue.
got that. Okay.
Trees along the Webb Street. It's in Donna's report.
So that's, okay, street tree planting on Webb.
8 trees along Sunset and Park.
Okay, so as per the report,
Yep, perfect.
it's DCH.
We're recommending the stealthing masking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Oh, question on the stealthing. Do you want it like dark brown and then the white cap, the way they painted it? Or do you want it all brown or all white? I realize that you guys don't really, somebody's got to tell us how to do it.
Can't really tell from these pictures, but
Donna.
I mean, Donna, if there's like, if it's both colors, will that stick out even more? I mean, it's not really a detailed chunk
Yeah,
of
the problem is because they're these, you know, the shapes aren't conforming to the physical structure of the building. If we mimic the actual striping, yeah, it's going to look weird. So I think what we're talking about is there may be a strong base of that creamier concrete color, which would be light, and then maybe the band would be the brick tone.
And at the top, Donna?
At the top of brick band, yeah.
Okay.
so do I have a second or am I the only one?
Jack, you have all of those. You want to read through that again so Brittany at least feels confident that her
All right,
motion
let me
is.
make sure I have. Okay. Number one, the easy one is applicant's gonna install street trees on Webb as per, or wherever as recommended in the report of CCH. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Number two, you're opting for the panels, not for the exposed antennas. Number three, this is where I may have lost you. You want to mimic the building and facade and the parapet wall, or what? Something less or something more?
That sounds good to me.
Okay, that's your motion.
Anyone else can? Kitty, is that what you?
I'll go along with that.
Okay.
All right. So
that's my motion.
So
Do I have a
Kitty,
second?
is that a second? Do I get a second from you, Kitty?
I'll second that.
All right.
We
Sounds
had
good.
so much to say about that, Brittany and I.
All right.
Appropriate.
So I have a motion by Brittany Ashman and a second by Catherine Minervini. I will now take a vote. Daniel Harris, how do you vote?
Danny?
Dan, vote?
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Yes, thank you. Brittany Ashman,
Yes.
Christopher Gonzalez,
Yes.
Tim Slick,
Yes.
Catherine Minervini,
Yes.
Bonnie Neck,
Yes.
and Russell Lewis.
Yes.
Thank you. Application approved.
Thank you so much for your time. I have a question. I assume the resolution will be adopted at your next meeting, which is
Our next meeting is September 14th.
Yeah,
Is it
I'll
okay
have
to
it ready for then.
Okay, great. And then is it possible that we can go ahead and apply for the building permit before then, realizing that they, you know, don't have to release it or anything, but just process it before the 14th?
Don't have them issue it, because if you get an appeal, then we have a problem.
Yeah, no, not a
You
problem.
you can make application for anything, but they can't issue the permit and you can't start work until we
Right.
get the resolution.
Right, okay. As long as we can go ahead and process. Some towns allow us to process and some towns don't.
And actually, it's not a board call. It's going to be a policy of the city. So if you go there and they say, oh, no, we don't do that, then you can't say, oh, Jack Serpico on the board.
Wait, you don't have that much power, Jack?
No, we do. No, I certainly do not. And the board doesn't either. No.
All right,
And
guys.
Judith, you would have to supply updated or revised plans if required by the resolution, by what the resolution indicates, before you can apply for permits. We have to go through resolution compliance.
Yeah, I don't think any of the, because the photo sims were done for the color and we haven't changed anything. So I don't think the plans have to be revised unless I'm wrong. I think we're okay. Do you want me to
have
get you?
to indicate the tree plantings?
Okay, we'll do the tree plantings. You can put a note on them. And then, do you want me to get you a photo sim of, you know, what the beige with the dark trim, so you can look at it and say the trim needs to be a little wider, a little less?
Yeah, because we didn't, we're doing, and the last time I had a board in the city approve something they didn't see because somebody said it was going to look a certain way. Boy, it's a mess. It's still a mess 10 years later. So actually, as part of the motion, somebody should look at this to make sure. I don't expect that you're going to make it, you know, look like the merry-go-round used to over in the casino. But, you know, we got it. Somebody from the board perspective's got to look at this.
So how about if I get you, Paul will run them photo sims again with the beige on the bottom and the darker trim. In his mind as a planner, what looks good. You guys look at it, tell me if the band should be wider or thinner or whatever. Okay, Donna?
Let's have Donna jump in. She usually helps with this sort of thing.
Yeah, send me a detail, color rendering, whatever.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you all so much.
Okay.
Oh, and Judith, can you please supply me with that additional exhibit from some Sunset, I believe it was?
Yes.
Thank you.
That Paul had, I will do that.
Okay. Thank you. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, Irene, I have a question. The website says the next meeting is September 8th.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I say the wrong date?
Yes.
Let me just make sure.
4th to the 8th. So unless they're not going to.
I'm sorry. That was the planning board. Yes, the next zoning board meeting is on September 8th.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you.
Good night, folks.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
Night.
guys. Thanks, Russell. Have a good night, everyone.
Good job, Russell.
Oh, thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.